Greetings, troubled Return to Haven listeners. This is your host with the most, though I hate to boast, Rich French. And what you are accessing now is a small segment from our companion series, Troubled with Extra Syrup, which you can listen to on our second tier level on Patreon. Enjoy.
Take a seat at the Grey Gull and get the pancakes ready because Troubled with Extra Syrup is here to fill that craving for more Haven-related content. Welcome to our Patreon-exclusive series of episodes. We now have 3 tiers, and this will be kind of the first month we're doing it. So you get 3 tiers for $1, which you had to have paid for to access this. That gets you just extra documents, so all the summaries and notes that we do. That also gets you the Wu-Tang nickname, which was previously locked at $5. We now are giving out the Extra Syrup episodes at the $3 paywall. So patrons who pay for $3 a month will get all the extra episodes that we've done so far, like the Colorado Kid episode and our album review episode. And now this one, our Joyland pitch episode. The new $5 tier actually is going to have director's cuts. So it's going to be all the extra stuff that you've always wanted to hear, or maybe you never did, about all the tangential stuff we talk about. There's a lot that we cut out that you guys don't get to hear about, like personal stories, movies, opinions, stuff like that. They always come out once a month. We'll also be doing extra stuff at the $5 level that we don't have exactly nailed down, but we're thinking stuff like...
We are thinking about having Zoom calls where you can get on the line with us and actually talk to us and ask us your questions directly and give us feedback on what you would like us to research and cover during our special segments on our weekly show.
Yeah, there's just so much to talk about. And we wanted to make sure that we cover all the material that might be outside of the episodes. This month, we're doing, we read the book Joyland. To kind of specify why we did Joyland, it's a book by Stephen King. And it is in the hard case crime imprint, just like the Colorado Kid was. So we decided that we would read Joyland and try to pitch it as a TV show the way the creators of Haven did for the Colorado Kid, because they read it and then turned it into a script and then pitched it to, I think it was originally ABC and then eventually got picked up by Sci-Fi. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing that for you guys. So each one of us came up with a pitch for the show. We're going to pitch it to each other and to you. And then at the end, we're going to kind of see, what we liked about each other's. Maybe, I don't know, would it be even better if we combined, or like if we took this idea from the other one, what you guys think, so we want to do all that with the pitch. So before we get started, we kind of just want to give a quick little summary of Joyland, just real quick, back of the book and our opinions and stuff, information like that real quick. So you guys are familiar with Joyland before we jump into what we would both do with the show. So Joyland was a book that came out in, was it 2013?
2013
under the hard case crime imprint, just like the Colorado Kid, edited by, did you notice that note from the author at the end to Charles Arday, who also was like the publisher on the Colorado Kid? It was just like, and to Charles Arday, thanks, man. Yeah. That said. But if you want to go in real quick on just what Joyland's about.
It's kind of a mixture of a coming of age tale and a hard case of hard crime fiction. So we've got a young 21-year-old college student who's brokenhearted, having girlfriend troubles, and he has to work for the summer, so he decides he's going to try to apply at an amusement park in North Carolina called Joyland. And while he's there, he makes new friends. He learns about being a carny, learns the very intricate carny language that even the author mentions, and that people are going to give him a hassle because not everything's 100% accurate, but most of it is because he researched it. And there he, like I said, he learns about this murder that took place at the carnival earlier. And then there's a ghost involved, and we go forward. He saves a little girl who's choking, which was predicted by this fortune teller, which is really neat. And then she predicts he'll see a boy and with a dog, and he meets a boy with a dog who has muscular dystrophy and becomes friends with him and reluctantly with the mother and the boy's psychic. And basically the boy wants to go to Joyland for, to feel alive. They take him to Joyland, and then he frees the ghost of the girl who was murdered there. And then eventually our hero, Devin, he figures out who the murderer is.
I'll put in the show notes too, but a spoiler warning is coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Devin figures out who the murderer is, and then he is confronted by the murderer. And at the last second, Annie, who is the boy Mike's mother, who used to be a competitive shooter, shoots him right in the head on top of the Ferris wheel. And that, kind of saves the day. And then sadly, a few months later, young Mike dies from complications of his muscular dystrophy. And then it kind of ends with a beautiful scene. Annie and Devin on the beach. That's kind of the first time they met. It was flying a kite. He showed them how to fly a kite because Annie was struggling with it. And this time they attached some of his ashes to the kite so he could be spread. It's really a beautiful ending. Great book.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all there is to the book. I really liked it. It for a long time I was wondering. It didn't feel like a hard case crime novel for a while. Like you were saying, very coming of age. It was very about the heartbreak over his college girlfriend and everything. But I feel like in the end, it came through on kind of the gritty crime aspect.
No, I agree with you. The events of 1973, when all of this occurred, kind of matches up. It's a little older than Stephen King was at the time. I mean, Stephen King was a little older than 21 at the time, but it was still fairly close to his college days at the University of Maine. So I really liked it. It was a coming of age, but then it just kind of unfolded in the middle that, wait a minute, we're going to solve the story of this girl who was murdered, and which was great. The way they went about it, the way they figured it out. Because I was like you, I was like, is this a true crime? True crime type, not true crime because it's not real, but this is a real hard crime case. And I was like, but then all of a sudden, Erin gets involved, takes it on her own, and which is a character from the book who was friends with the main character.
She's the girl on the cover with the camera and the green dress.
Yes, she's a Hollywood girl.
What did you when did you figure out it was Lane Hardy before the reveal?
I had inklings at first, but then my suspicions went to someone else. And
was it Fred Dean?
Fred Dean, yeah.
He was trying to paint it like it was Fred Dean, and I was like, it's fucking Lane. Like
that's when it was like that scene where Fred Dean was dressed finally, instead of dressed like a professional, like a business person, he was dressed like a carny. And I was like, oh no, because I fucking love Fred Dean. I mean, and I liked fucking Lane Ward a lot too. Hardy, not Lane Ward. Ward is a different character, but yeah.
Yeah, Lane Hardy. I really liked him, but like, what point was it? I think it was when he asked Devin why he took off Eddie Parks' gloves. I was like, oh, fuck, it's this guy, isn't it? And I was like, well, maybe I'm wrong. I was like, I don't even know if we're going to find out who it is. And then when he took Annie and Mike to the shooting range, or no, it was after the first ride, Lane went on to go do something else. And they're like, oh, you're operating all the rides. And he's like, tonight, I'm a man of many hats. And I was like, that's the fucking line that like, we're supposed to like look back later and realize that was the fucking line. He's a man of many hats. He was wearing the duck top.
Yeah. He was. I should have picked up on it a little earlier, but I was, and like I said, it sucks that because I like both of them so much. Yeah. But then at the end, when Lane's true colors come out, he's pretty much a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's insane.
He treats Mike, the kid, so fucking nice, and then afterwards, when we're getting down to the nitty gritty, he's just like, he's a rube, like all rubes. I'm just playing the game. And I'm like, oh man, that was horrible. But I thought it was. I texted you immediately after I finished it. I was like, I fucking loved it. It was one of my favorite. At the time, when I look back objectively, I might not say it's one of my top 5 Kings, but boy, it's really good. I love the coming of age story. These characters really resonated with me.
Yeah, what I really liked is what I really liked is that it seems like King had some forethought towards the end. There's times where you're like, where the fuck are you going with this? And there was definitely a moment where I was like, when it's transitioning from summer into like fall, and Devin's like, oh, I'm gonna stay here. I was like, where the fuck is this story going? Like, what is this gonna be about? But it transitioned very nicely. And then by the end, it felt like all these elements, Annie's shooting, the ghosts, Lane and the hair dye and and the fake tattoos and the derby hat and like all of it. It felt more planned than he usually can pull off with the great characters that he almost consistently always like does.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and that's the thing though. It's supposed to be a hard crime novel, so you kind of have to use some mechanisms, to have a hard crime. Even though, kind of, when I think back to the Colorado Kid, the Colorado Kid wasn't, was not really much of a hard crime case. It was unsolved and all of that, and but like I still liked it, but I like this like 10 times better.
Yeah. But like I said with Colorado Kid, is I felt like it was a thought experiment on the idea of unsolved mysteries. Whereas this one is more, King definitely has like a story in mind for the characters rather than an abstract idea. Like Devin feels very like realized. And I also think if we kind of look at the timeline of King within those first like kind of 10 years within his accident, it takes him, from what we've seen, it takes him a bit to kind of get back on the horse. I don't really think it's till like around 2010 that it feels like King's fully back, or maybe Doom McKee.
Doom McKee is exceptional.
Doom McKee and like 11, and like I know a lot of people I hear about 11/23 or 11 whatever 63 whatever the day is, right. The Kennedy book. Those are kind of the two that it seems like he's back like in full force, because in there you kind of got like Cell and From a Buick 8 and Blaze and Dreamcatcher I think is the one exception of like his post-accident books that
right
is comes off exceptional, but kind of in there.
Kind of a side note on Dreamcatcher, I was just reading an article online about what King thinks about all of his adaptations. And it said that he hated Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, he hates all the best movies. Like,
yeah, and that was I love that movie. That was the first time we got Jonesy, unless he has a Jonesy character in another one. But
that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, Devin's last name is Jones, and the Carnies love to call him Jonesy.
Yeah, right. So I think Colorado Kid or The Dark Tower also concludes in that time period of post-accident, right? Which infamously has a not satisfying ending. And The Colorado Kid is 2006, so that also fits in that time window. So I think in there he's kind of figuring himself out and stuff. And then it feels like I said, around Doom McKee, which I want to say is 2009. I might be off a year, give or take, but around then.
2008, Doom McKee.
Okay, so 2008, that's kind of when he starts to kind of come back, almost like a little under 10 years.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because after that, he does Under the Dome. He does 11/22/63.
I think Under the Dome is still kind of.
I like the book. I like the book. It's an interesting concept, with the ending.
It's just I like the first half, and then I feel like in the second half, it's one of those, what I'm talking about, where it feels like it just starts coming undone. Like he has no fucking idea outside of the aliens thing, which we've spoiled in a previous podcast. So if you've listened to us before, don't worry, it's already spoiled for you.
If you haven't read Under the Dome by now, you're probably not going to, even though I recommend it, and Alex probably does not. I do.
I don't. It's just the ending isn't. It's 1,000-page book. It's a 1,000-page book, and by the end, I was kind of like, oh, I like the aliens thing. I don't like the meth lab explosion. I get what he was trying to do with Big Jim Rennie's death, but it just wasn't satisfying. Like this just fucking bastard. It's not a satisfying end. But then again, that's how it is sometimes. But I think Under the Dome is one of still kind of getting his feet back under him.
Well, he had his feet back under him with Doom McKee. That's an exceptional book.
Yeah.
And once again, everyone's gonna be like, you're like a King Homer, and I am. I'll admit, I think he's the greatest writer, of my lifetime. And this book it was nominated for an Edgar Award. It didn't win, but it was nominated.
For Joyland.
Joyland, yeah.
Okay.
And it's Edgar Allan Poe Awards. The Edgars are what the people go by, and it's from the Mystery Writers of America.
Right. So
it's excellent.
So that's Joyland. That's kind of our thoughts on it. So we really liked it. I would say I liked it more than the Colorado Kid, and I see a lot more potential to turn it into a TV show over the Colorado Kid. I read and I was like, how the fuck did they get a show out of this? Like,
yeah, no, I mean, I give Ernst and Dunn, total credit. The concept that they pulled out of the Colorado Kid is just amazing. I mean, I don't know if someone helped them with that concept. I know they did, speak with King and stuff about it. So I don't know if he gave them some ideas, but I was impressed. And, that's why I thought it was a tall order when you asked me to come up with a pitch for my own Joyland series. So I was a little nervous and apprehensive about it, but I like where I got to.
Ernst and Dunn, I'll give them this, that it's very creative, but I've pondered on the podcast before that I wonder if they had a show that was about solving supernatural crimes that they just kind of stuck the Colorado Kid sticker on. But once again, that's a question we wouldn't know unless we asked them. But that's always been my theory, is that they had a basis for an idea down and then just were like, oh, we'll use this setting and kind of framework of that mystery and put it in place of this kind of like idea we've already had.
Right. And then this way we can shoot in Canada, which is probably cheaper. And one of their partners was a Canadian broadcasting company. So, yeah.
Right. It
could be. But like I said, I'm still going to give them their credit for it. It's an amazing concept. And, obviously we're biased. We wouldn't be doing a rewatch podcast if we didn't love the show. So, Alex, what would you rate this? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Joyland?
Probably an 8. I'd probably give it an 8. It was really satisfying. I really enjoyed it. It's funny just because I just started a job that has a lot of like physical shit. I'm outside and like working with people who can be kind of like not nasty, but they'll hear this and like, what? But people who can be a little difficult, and it's almost like a completely different language. So it was very funny that I was just yesterday at work taking a break, or on my lunch break and reading this book in my car as Devin's dealing with kind of carnies in that world as I'm in a similar entertainment field out like there working on shit like that. So it was pretty cool. Obviously none of the rest of the shit happened. I wasn't chasing a serial killer, but that was cool. And like I said, I thought it was much more tightly plotted. Characters are great as usual. And there was just something nostalgic isn't even the right word, obviously, because I have no concept of the 70s, but there was something just like, I don't know, really enjoyable about being in that world that like, I don't know. It was like, or maybe it's nostalgic for like King, I guess, that like, it feels good to be in one of his like, when he's really just on it.
Oh, no, I know it's exactly what you're saying, because you're getting to see what King thought of the 1970s. And I was obviously born in the 70s, 72. So, I mean, and I historically have had a great memory. So I do remember a lot. I remember kind of the feel of the times. I do. No, because,
I'm just laughing if like there's any like statements repeated in the podcast. They'll be like, does he have a good memory? But actually on the questions we've had against each other, you've been right. So your meticulous note taking and memory has paid off.
It's kind of like Memento. Stuff from the past I know, but anything like the last 2 years, I can't seem to fucking remember it. I don't know, getting older and shit. But I do remember the feel of the era. I remember my cousin Janine wearing her jeans and her jean jacket with like an REO Speedwagon shirt, her hair all frizzy, and putting me on her shoulders, taking me to the ice cream stand. I mean, it was cool. It was kind of a feel good era. And then disco came, and we've already talked about that in the previous Patreon episode.
The 70s didn't really start till Captain and Tennille started.
Yeah. Love didn't keep them together, but
it lasted a long time.
It did. It lasted a long time, and
40 years.
Rest in peace to the captain. So, but nonetheless, on the Frenchometer, I happen to agree with you. I came up with an 8 as well. So I like the book that much. I mean, it was very touching. All the scenes with Mike and Mike's, and it's King. So it's not just a straight crime case. There's some supernatural involved in there as well. And it was just a great book. I seriously recommend to any of our listeners that you actually read it. It's worth it. It's not super long, 229 pages or something like that. It's worth your time.
It is 282 on mine. All right. Thank you for listening to that limited sample of our sister series, Troubled with Extra Syrup. Once again, it's on Patreon. If you want to hear the rest of that episode, you can head over there. Join us for $3 a month. It's the middle tier. $5 if you want director's cuts, but that's where the rest of those episodes will be if you want to hear the rest of all of these awesome extra episodes. Thank you for listening. Check you out next time. No, fuck. Check you out next time.
Check you out. Hey.
I don't know where that came from.
How you doing?
Well, you'll be listening to us hopefully in a week. Please keep listening to us.